Well, it is interesting to see that the same week Riot accidentally teased the next champion, as well as the same week Riot accidentally teased the next season. We also got an indirect confirmation that Riot's live-action League of Legends series is now in production. So, let's talk about that. You see, to many of us, this is actually nothing new. We knew that something live-action was going on because it was teased in the past. I mean, after Arcane, we talked to Christian Ling, who pretty much confirmed that there is a lot of other stuff happening, including both animation and live-action stuff. Or specifically, he mentioned that there are other forms of media going on. But we knew he was talking about live-action because before that, in the August of last year, we made an entire video on this topic. The first clue that something is going on came from the yearly Riot update. There, among them confirming that they are working on new games still, they also mentioned that they are working on new series, and they specifically mentioned TV, where TV is usually used for movies. And in the organizational letter, where Riot just told us how Riot is being reorganized, we learned that Brian Wright is now the head of the Riot TV and Film Development Studio. Which means Riot was pretty much dedicated on making movies too. On top of this, 2 new job listings popped up. Riot was now looking for the global head of live-action film, as well as the head of the live-action global TV. The difference between these is that one is likely series and the other one is movies. Regardless, from all of this, we always knew that something was going on, but we didn't know exactly what. Well, now it is finally confirmed that it is something that's live action, which strikes fear into the hearts of all gamers. Because seeing something good that is live action and based on video games is rare. But alas, a new piece of information about this dropped only last week. And funnily enough, it dropped among the chaos of teasing stuff. But this time, the leak came from Facebook. Who would have expected that? And the leaks came directly from the Vietnamese government. Who would have expected that? So, a short story still short. The official page for the Vietnamese government posted that the government is now teaming up with Riot Games, and they will let them hang around Cat Ba. At first, I assumed the reason why they posted this is likely because they just wanted to let the locals know that Hollywood would now be marching around. But apparently, not only is there probably a better reason why, but also the entire post gave us way too much information. Because apparently, Riot surveyed the islands on March the 12th. And it seems like they are planning on filming something here later in 2025. But only 2 days before all of that, the Minister of Culture, Tourism and Sports met with representatives from Riot. Where one of the people representing Riot was Rose Lamb, who recently became known for being the producer on the live-action adaptation of The Last of Us. Which is good, because even though that series didn't exactly catch the vibe of the games, it is still getting very high ratings all over the place. So far, things are looking good. Regardless, apparently, Rose Lamb surveyed multiple other Asian countries, including Japan, Korea or Thailand. But ultimately, they landed on Vietnam. And that is because apparently this is the place that best suits their creative needs. And again, the specific location mentioned is Cat Ba. After which the post mentions what is likely the real reason why the government had to post this. Apparently, Vietnam has very strict environmental laws. And they mention, and I quote, that Vietnam will not trade the environment for economic benefits. So in reality, it is possible that they are posting this because they want to let people know that something bad might be happening here, but they got it under control. Now, in case you are wondering about the credibility of all of this, it was confirmed to be real not because it is the official page for the Vietnamese government, I mean it is Facebook, anything is possible there, but because official Riot accounts replied to it. Which takes us to the big thing everyone is talking about. Just what exactly will Riot be filming here? Well, first of all, it was confirmed that this will be a 9-episode series, not a movie. This is good because on average, if an episode has 30 to 40 minutes, we are getting entertainment equal to 3 movies. But also, people started speculating about the location. Now, if we go back to my interview with Christian Link, he confirmed that pretty much every one of the bigger stories people love in this universe is being worked on in one way or another. Meaning there is the likelihood that something is happening with the Demacian story. Maybe something is happening with Ionia and the invasion. Maybe something is happening with Shurima. And so no matter what location you name, it is possible that any of these could be happening here. But given the specific location of Katba, people started theorizing Ionia, Bilgewater, or the Shadow Isles. So of course I whipped up Google, I looked at the location and realized that's Bilgewater, alright. Now I absolutely understand why they picked this location. Because truth be told, this looks gorgeous. And I'll have to be honest, it does look like Bilgewater the most. Specifically, in the Ruined King game, we could explore the Buru Islands as well as the Windrake Islands, and both of these definitely fit the vibe. But also, yes, with the right setup, this could be turned into Hellia. So we could be dealing with a Shadow Isles story. But there is something that is really throwing me off. As they mentioned before, they did explore a lot of other Asian countries, including Japan, Korea, and Thailand. So it is highly likely that thematically we might be talking about Ionia. Now, if this is the case, then there is a really big brain theory going on. Because in Ionia, the biggest story that's told here is the Noxian invasion. And you could definitely use the shores of these isles to set up the shots of the Noxian ships invading Ionia, which is a big reason why this might tease an Ionian story. But if we focus on the aesthetics alone, it still screams Bilgewater. In fact, that's when another big brain theory comes in. Because if we are talking about something that might threaten the environment so much that the government has to come out and tell everyone that yes, they know that something is going on, but everyone should be calm, then sure, we might be talking about them burning forests to set up the invasion of Ionia. But all of that could be faked. The one thing that would be way harder to pull off, unless you really just dive into full CGI, would be building the Bilgewater Bay on one of these islands. Now yes, I'm sure Riot wouldn't have to build an entire replica of the city. But for convincing shots, you would want to have at least a part of it be a physical asset, meaning that you would have to build it on one of these islands. You would also have to put the Butcher's Bridge on one of them, and now we are talking about tampering with the environment on these islands, which would be a really good reason for the government to have all of this under control. Perhaps that might be the strongest argument why we are dealing with the Bilgewater story. But if not, let's be honest, it can be anything. Do you think Demacia doesn't have islands like these? They do, somewhere in the west. Not to mention, one of these islands became the headquarters for the Sentinels. These islands can also be found around Noxus. They are also likely scattered around Targon. Or maybe they could be used for the islands just north of Shurima. So to be fair, every region has a chance of getting something. But the odds are, we are likely dealing with Bilgewater. If not, it could be Ionia because of Japan and Korea, with the Shadow Isles being pretty much attached to Bilgewater. Either way, it was finally confirmed that Riot is getting live action stuff. Again, we knew about all of this before, but now it's confirmed. And yes, remember that this is still not the only thing that Riot is working on. They now have 2 separate studios, with one focusing on animation and the other one focusing on live action films. Or the series, I guess. So even if this specific thing doesn't end up being your favorite region, just know that sooner or later it will probably happen anyway. I'm just in shock that we learned about any of this in the first place, and it didn't come from Riot. It came from the Vietnamese government. On Facebook. Maybe this is teasing that this is a boomer series. Maybe this is Ionia.